This is a Dragon Blazer production. This is Unsolved Comedy.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 2 of Unsolved Comedies, where we watch unsolved mysteries and try to delve a little bit deeper. I'm Kizea, and my co-host is...
Steven.
There he is. And we do have a cat listening in on this episode. She was not here last time, but
Meow,
I guess she wants to hear what's going on. I think she's more interested in that box. All right. So, there it is. The case we're talking about today is 13 Minutes, which is the second episode on the Unsolved Mysteries playlist. And it addresses a woman by the name of Patrice Endres. What did you think of the coverage of the case on the episode itself?
To be honest, compared to the last episode, this wasn't nearly as interesting as a case.
No, I think it was pretty shitty. There was no evidence. It was honestly just a bunch of hearsay.
Yeah, they didn't, the other one had a very unique, death. Way it happens is completely a mystery. Mind you, this is also a mystery.
Right, it is a mystery. This girl, we don't know what happened to her.
Within 13 minutes.
But 13 minutes is... Calypso, could you not, please? Thank you, Mommy's recording. No, but this case is a little bit unique that way as well, where 13 minutes is a quick time to just disappear and just be completely gone.
Yeah, it is, but yeah, it wasn't as compelling of a case.
It wasn't. I will agree with you on that. It really wasn't. And like I said earlier, this case was mainly hearsay. They said it themselves, there's next to no evidence. They're basing everything on, this guy doesn't have an alibi and he's done a crime similar, and this guy admitted to it but then retracted his statement. Like, it's weird.
Or the simple, it was the husband.
I think it was the husband. Spoiler alert, I think it was the husband.
I think the husband was a dick, but I don't know if I think he did it.
We'll talk about why I think he did it.
Alright, well.
So let's talk about the case itself. The case itself happens on April 15th, 2004. She drops her son off at school. Patrice does. Her son, Pistol, which is a fucking awesome name, by the way. Who names their son Pistol? That's so fucking cool. Like, you have a son called Remington, but Pistol is just, like, punch you in the mouth.
I just don't even, we just skip the subtlety and just, let's name our son after a gun. Let's do it. It's a pistol. He's a pistol.
Yeah,
that's a nickname your drunk, racist uncle gives you, not...
Specifically, your drunk racist uncle.
Your drunk racist uncle. Hey, he's a pistol.
He's a pistol. But Pistol Black is his name.
Oh, jeez. That is definitely a nickname that the racist drunk uncle gives. Hey, Pistol Black.
Pistol Black over here.
Yeah. The white uncle that is not happy about having a black nephew.
Yeah, literally. So, this story starts on April 15th, 2004. She drops her son Pistol off at school. And he's in high school. He's a 10th grader, I think, at this time. So, obviously, we know what time.
It was just about right before he turned 16.
Yeah, so he was a 10th grader. He said that he was in biology, and he gets called down, or he doesn't get called down. The resource officer comes down and takes him back to his office and is like, yo, bro, you heard from your mom. And obviously, he says that his mom always answered his cell phone calls. And he called her that day, and she did not answer her cell phone, and he called her 3 times. So he assumes something's wrong, but he doesn't assume that something, like, bad has happened at this point. They take him to his mother's salon. She did hair. In fact, Pistol says she had a passion to do hair, which I think is, obviously pretty cool. And at that point, we see the timeline, right? The register's open. There is money missing. Her purse is on the counter. Her lunch is in the microwave. And this information comes from Mitchell Posey, or Posey, not really sure. But he's a special agent that's in charge of this investigation. There's no blood. There's no drag lines. There's very little evidence. And her husband, Rob, is at work when Patrice goes missing. He made sure to tell us that. Her vehicle was out of place. Her vehicle normally is parked next to, I guess, her hair salon. And at this time...
In the back.
Huh? Yeah, it's normally parked in the back. And at this time, it was like you could see it at the front of the building. But it wasn't in front of the building. It was like off to the side. But if you were driving up to the front of the building, you could see her car, which I guess was unusual.
Well, they suggested that it seemed like maybe she moved her car to, like, give someone a jump or something.
Right. They do say that they did a thorough search of the salon, and Patrice was gone. She was not there. And Nancy, I believe Nancy is a friend. We have so many people.
I mean, if she was there, this is a pretty short episode.
It is. Nancy is a friend of Patrice, and she says that Patrice would never leave Pistol. But Pistol did mention something a little bit strange. Pistol said that his mother asked him about 2 weeks before all of this happened. She asked him, if something ever happened to me, where would you go? And he says, I don't know, I would go to my dad's. So obviously he's like, that's a weird-ass question to ask, but...
So what are your thoughts on that?
I think we learn later on in the episode that Patrice was talking about divorce. She was not happy in her marriage. I think that Rob maybe caught wind of it. I think she was planning to leave with her son before she divorced Rob, because she probably knew that Rob objectified her, and she probably knew that Rob didn't like the idea of her hanging out with anybody else, let alone leaving. So I assume that Rob killed her because she was talking about divorce, and she had an off feeling, which is why she asked Pistol where he would go.
So you think that she considered the possibility of her husband being willing to murder her?
I definitely think she did. I mean, we'll talk about it later in the case, but there's definitely some red flags here. There's definitely some things that, like, he talks about when he pulls out her ashes. He's like, oh, she's my teddy bear. That's objectifying language. And yes, I understand that it could be sweet, but it is an objectifying way of speaking about her. And he seemed very comfortable with doing that. So it seems like that's the way he did talk about her when she was alive and when she was with him. In fact, his sister, or her sister, her friend, her son all say that he was way too protective. He was super jealous. He didn't like anybody else being around her. She couldn't even hang out with her girlfriends because he felt like that was attention that she should be giving to him, not hanging out with her friends.
No, see, I find it kind of odd he'd be willing to do this documentary if he was guilty.
But wouldn't that be the best way to go about it? Why would I go on Unsolved Mysteries if I killed my wife? Why would I do that?
I mean, sure, I guess, but...
I mean, there's a whole bunch of lies. I was watching YouTube just before this, and I was watching a channel called Plunder, which I believe is like a true crime investigation type YouTube deal. And she actually puts a Facebook post up on screen that is put up by supposedly some kind of family member or married into the family member of Rob Endress. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but there's definitely some lies that make him stick out like a red fucking thumb in this episode. Thank you for that, Calypso. We're going to have to lock the cats up the next time we record. So let's go over the timeline. At 8:50... her first client arrives.
It's 8:52 right now.
Hey. I mean, it is in the evening, and this was in the morning.
Well, you know. Whatever. Just noticed that. That's kind of weird.
So at 8:50, Pam Shepard, Patrice's first client for the day, arrives, and she says that Patrice is very distracted. Which is very odd for Patrice. Normally, Patrice is very focused. She's very, on point. She wants to talk. And Patrice is very distracted, which is odd. At 11:05, Pam leaves, so that leads me to believe that they probably talked for quite a while, besides doing her hair. Maybe she had a color done. I'm not sure. She was there for a while. At 11:10, Paul Cantor, who is another client for a haircut, arrives, and he leaves at 11:27, so he wasn't there very long. She gets a phone call at 11:35 that lasts 2 minutes, and she gets off the phone at 11:37. And the customer that called said Patrice was very short with her, snipey, which, again, according to all of these people, is extremely unlike Patrice. She was a very kind-hearted, sweet woman. Why would she be short? I mean, of course, everybody has bad days, but they said they had actually never heard her talk like this. And between 11:37 and 11:50, there's an unanswered call. At 11:50, there's an unanswered call. So there's our 13-minute window that she disappeared in. 11:37 to 11:50. That's 13 minutes. And that's when the police were called. Because the customer that had the unanswered call actually called the police, or somebody showed up for their hair appointment and she wasn't there, something like that. Somebody called the police because it was just odd. And the police got there, and they were able to go through her phone and find out that these 13 minutes appear to be where Patrice went missing.
See, this is interesting. I wonder if maybe it wasn't 13 minutes that she went missing on. Because you said she was very short on the phone. Which suggests to me that she knew
something was going to happen.
Something was happening or was already happening.
Right.
What are the chances that she was being held at gunpoint or something and was told to get off the phone?
I mean,
that is some very odd behavior.
Potentially. I think it's more likely that she maybe got into a fight with her husband, because that's something that, according to Pistol, happened very often. They would get into fights. Maybe her husband called her on her cell phone, or maybe her husband popped in for a minute, was like, hey, you need to do this when you get home, and she got pissed off. He took off, and she gets on the phone. It could have been anything. Honestly, I think the husband killed her.
Except, didn't you say that, didn't they say that the husband was working, and they confirmed that?
They did, but they said that...
You said that it was very unlikely.
Yeah, they said it was very unlikely, but he could have done it.
There was a possibility.
And it didn't erase murder for hire. They said that it didn't erase murder for hire.
But I tell you what, if I'm hiring someone to murder my wife, I'm not calling my wife and getting in a fight with her before she dies. I'm giving you no reason to suspect me.
That's fair. I mean, like I said, it could have been anything, but maybe she got in a fight the night before, because it does say that at 8:50, when she had her first client, she was also distracted.
They said it was very weird that she was short and distracted, okay? So that means if she's been arguing with her husband as often as everybody seems to say, wouldn't this be something that happened more frequently than just one day?
I mean, I guess. Maybe that morning...
Which leads me to believe something was going on already.
Potentially.
Something else.
Like I said, maybe that's the morning that she mentioned to him that she might have wanted a divorce. And nobody knows really what happened that morning, because Pistol wasn't home. He was already at school. You know, she could have, after she dropped Pistol off at school, gone back home and been like, hey, we need to talk before Rob went to work. And if Rob, found out then that his wife was planning to divorce him, and we'll get into a couple of other things later, but he might have just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm not fighting for her attention, I'm just going to kill her. And then I can have her forever after that. They'll find her body, and I can have her forever. That's
a quick decision if he was just told that day about divorce.
I mean, I don't know. Could have happened, could have not happened.
I'm telling you what, based on what we've seen, what happened, it sounds like... Imagine
if she came to him, though, and said, hey, you and I aren't working out. I don't like the way that you treat me. I'm tired of us fighting, and I don't like the way that you treat my son. I'm leaving you, and I'm going to go back and get with my ex-husband. And that's what I'm going to do, and there's nothing you can do about it. He might have just snapped. Because like I said, we'll go into some other things later, and we'll find out why it wouldn't be so weird for him to make these decisions.
Okay, let me ask you this. Crime of passion is what you're going with?
I don't know if I'm going for crime of passion. I'm going for crime of abuser. So, like, an abuser, if I'm in an abusive relationship, like let's say that I'm dating some guy and he's horribly abusive, which isn't the case. My boyfriend is wonderful. But let's say that this happened to me. And I decide that I'm going to leave. And I threaten to leave. More often than not, when you threaten your abuser with leaving or divorce or I'm going to go somewhere and take the kids and you can't do anything about it, most of the time, if that person dies, it was the abuser because the abuser will make a split-second decision because abusers are smart. They're narcissists. A lot of times they have that mental capacity to be like, fuck you, you're not going anywhere.
I kind of feel this feels a little too clean to be a sudden decision.
I mean, I feel like it's too clean to be an armed robbery.
Oh, I don't think it's a normal armed robbery. I don't think that either, but I'm just saying that this was done clean. There was no fighting, no arguing. There was no mess of the... if there was fighting and arguing, somebody cleaned it up real quick in 13 minutes.
Right. I mean, who's to say that he actually cleaned it up in 13 minutes? That's just the time that they look at. Because I don't think that the police were actually called until, I don't remember exactly what time they said, but the police weren't called at 11:50. They concluded that 11:50 was when she went missing because she answered the call at 11:35 and didn't answer the call at 11:50. If she had been there and maybe was in the bathroom, that would be a different story. But that's how they concluded that she went missing in those 13 minutes. That doesn't mean that the person came in and left in 13 minutes. It just means that he put her in the car, and if there was a fight, he cleaned it all up. But he probably put her in the car or had her held hostage or something first. I don't believe that it happened in 13 minutes. I believe that at the point that she was at in 13 minutes, she was told she wasn't allowed to answer the phone.
It's just very clean.
Yeah, which is why I don't think it was some serial killer off the street that just happened to pop in and decide that he was going to kill that woman that day.
You mean someone who has had practice doing this kind of thing? I
guess in my opinion, this guy that they're trying to pin this on, his name is Gary Hilton, the serial killer that they're trying to pin this on, didn't know Patrice. He'd never even seen her picture before. So obviously, like this guy, and Gary Hilton as a serial killer was very clean and very collected. He would wait for his victims. He would camp out somewhere, wait for his victims, watch them for several days, and then he would attack them. If he's never even seen her picture, I highly doubt that somebody with that kind of serial killer MO would just decide to pop in one day and kill this girl.
And how do we know for a fact he hadn't seen her picture?
I mean, that's the same thing as saying, how do we know for a fact that her and Rob didn't get into a fight the morning before or the night before? We don't know for a fact.
I didn't say they didn't get in a fight. I'm saying that this seems very clean and quick for just recently finding out she wants a divorce.
I don't think that Gary Hilton did it.
I'm not saying Gary Hilton did it.
It doesn't fit his MO. I have his MO written down here. He was good at conning people out of money, and they don't have an alibi for him.
Oh, and Gary Hilton. Wasn't he the guy that who said that he actually did go inside?
No. That's another guy. Gary Hilton has said that he never met this girl. He's never even seen her before in his life. The only reason that they say he might have done it is because he was good at conning people out of money, and there was money missing from the register, and he was a serial killer, so he had killed before. But his serial killer profile doesn't fit. He camps out, he waits for his victims, he watches them, and then he kills them. And he sometimes will dismember them in a nearby woods. And her remains were found 10 miles from where she was, which is about a 10-minute drive, and if he's not driving, that's a little ways to go to put a body away.
He's not driving? Because there was a car found.
I mean, he could have been driving, but we don't know that for a fact. The car driving fits with Jeremy Jones's story. He claims that he went into the store, he talked to Patrice, and he told her he needed to jump. But Jeremy has also recounted his statement, and he said that, let me see if I can find what I wrote down about him specifically. Actually, I screenshotted it, I didn't write it down. He recounted his statement. He said that he initially lied. Okay. It says, and this is from express.com.uk, and it says he lied about killing Endress to get better food, extra jail visitation, and more phone privileges. He said that it's worth nothing to have left Patrice's body 70 miles away from where it was found. So he said that he left her body. He said that he left her body at Sweetwater River, but they never found anything, and that's actually a good 65 to 75 miles away from her salon and from where her body was actually found. So he didn't do it. Like, yeah, he had some details, but who's to say that the cops didn't pressure him? Because there's no recordings of the interview.
Except for, didn't the cops specifically say we try to avoid saying things that only the investigation knows?
That is a load of bullshit. And if you know anything about the West Memphis 3 case, then you know why. Because if they feel like they have a suspect in custody, they will give the suspect, oh, well, did you maybe do this to her? Is that maybe what happened? Did you maybe do this to make this happen? Like, literally, those are things that happen. Like, I literally think that that's what happened with a woman who murdered her child. They were like, did you maybe... No, Chris Watts, that's what it happened with. The prosecution pushed him. Now, I do know that Chris Watts killed his kids, but they did push him. They were like, oh, well, did Shanann maybe do something that made you feel like you had to kill her? Like, they do push people. They definitely push people, and it's not unknown that they do that.
Well, let's pretend the police do their job properly.
Let's pretend.
Him knowing exactly how those cars were laid out.
Probably was on the news.
Probably
was on the news. Let's be real. There were police cars everywhere and cameras at her nail salon, or at her salon, the day that she went missing. Pistol tells us that.
Okay. But
who's to say that he wasn't watching the news that day? Because at that point he was in jail, I think.
Except for when the police got there, that second car was gone. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all I had. That second car was gone. That was based on the 2 eyewitnesses.
Yes.
Which, if the police are doing their jobs, that's not on the news.
But sometimes the police don't do their job.
So we're just going to ignore and just flat out say this guy who has quite a bit of detail on the case, but just happened to lie about where he threw the body.
Let's look at his statement. Like, again, this is from theexpress.co.uk. Jones ended up taking back his confession later that year, saying to NBC 15 News, "There's detectives out there who've worked this case for years and years, and they're so bound and determined to put me in here, put me in there, and question me about this." Okay, let's see the hard evidence, let's see the facts. So, he clearly doesn't, that's not something you say if you did it and have already confessed. I think he confessed because sometimes if you confess to certain crimes, you can take time off of your sentence, you can get a lighter deal, you can get moved from a maximum security to a minimum security. There's rewards for prisoners if they help in current investigations. Do not get that twisted. There's definitely rewards for prisoners that, cooperate. And that's why he said he lied in the first place. He lied to get better food, he lied to get more phone privileges, and more visitation with the people on the outside that he was related to and close to. So, those are plenty of incentives if you're in jail to do what he did.
Fair, but I think it's unfair to just flat out say he did not do it.
I'm not saying he didn't do it. It's completely
It's very possible he lied about recanting.
I mean, potentially, but I feel like if that's the case, then wouldn't the body be where he said it was? If he's going to confess, he may as well confess to the whole thing.
Maybe he just wanted to fuck with the cops.
He might have just wanted to fuck with the cops, but he could have also confessed to just fuck with the cops.
Now, I don't really have a great explanation to why he would lie about where he put the body.
If he's going to confess, he's already incriminating himself. You know, the cops could have said, hey, if you know anything about this case and you tell us, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, which is their job. It's their job to get justice for people. So they could have said, hey, you're having a tough time in here, bud. You want some cigarettes? Do you want some of this? Do you want some of that? If you tell us what happened to this girl, we might be able to get you those things.
Do we know exactly why the police talked to this guy? Did he come to them saying he had information, or did the cops come up to him?
They don't say in this article, and they don't say in the episode of Unsolved Mysteries either. So
I think that matters.
It probably does. Unfortunately, like I said, we don't have that information.
I mean, if the cops came to him, then your argument about the cops pushing him to one way makes more sense.
I believe they probably did come to him. I believe they probably did come to him.
If he came to the cops, it makes no sense for the cops to try to push him.
I believe he probably came. I believe the cops probably came to him. And the reason I believe the cops probably came to him is because the cops said that they already suspected him because he had sexually assaulted hundreds of women and killed some of them, if not all of them. So they probably went to him and was like, "Hey, you know this girl? Is she one of those women that you sexually assaulted and murdered? Is this possibly something that you did? If you tell us about it, it makes more sense for them to come to him and say, hey, you're a suspect in a crime. You have no alibi for this particular day. Here's this woman's picture. Did you know her? Her name is XYZ. And he could have been like, yeah, I know her, blah, 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 to get whatever he thought he was going to get from it.
It doesn't make sense. A little bit of both.
I mean, it might have been a little bit of both.
I mean, maybe he knew he planned on recanting the statement, so he lied about where he threw the body.
Actually,
get those benefits, but also make sure that they can't stick this to him because they don't find the body where he says.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. Let's talk about some of the things that we know for facts. Don Black is Pistol's father, and that's where he went to stay because Rob's an asshole. He's an asshole.
Rob is definitely... Don't get me wrong. Just because I am arguing the fact that it might not have been him, this guy is a dick.
He's an absolute... Ooh.
He's a terrible stepfather.
So, Pistol didn't like Rob. And you actually have a lot of experiences with, good stepfathers, as you're a pretty damn good one yourself, huh? So you probably know that saying I didn't see a future in an 8-year-old is probably not what you should say.
I think it will.
I think it will. But Pistol says that he didn't like Rob. His mom married Rob in 1997. I believe it was in May of that year. And after the first year, Rob was super mean to Pistol. And Pistol's like 8 or 9 at this time. And let's not forget that Rob is 20 years Patrice's...
No, he's straight up a douche.
He's a douche. He's 20 years Patrice's senior. He's 20 years older than she is. She's 30, he's 50. And...
That's not why he's a douche. He's just a douche.
Well, we do hear that Rob was a very jealous man. And Rob would say mean, crude, nasty things to Pistol. His friends would hear it. He would have to explain that to his friends. It says that Patrice did talk about divorce. That's something that Pistol talks about, is that his mother came to him about 2 weeks before all of this took place and was like, hey, we're about to get the fuck out of Dodge because this Rob guy is not it. I made a mistake. We're about to have to dip. And it looks like from the way that Rob is acting, I could see why she would think that. I mean, Rob also thought that Pistol took all of his attention. He felt like he was competing with an 8-year-old. An 8-year-old. Like, 8-year-olds need a lot of attention. You're 50. Figure it out. Like, I don't know. I guess, like, how do you say to somebody, why are you giving your son so much attention? Like, how do you say that to a woman, a mother? I don't understand.
I mean, kind of depends on how you word. If you're babying him too much, that's also can be considered a negative parenting. So, if he wasn't such a douche, there is ways where that conversation might be possible.
Right.
And logical and something that's needed to be said.
But Rob did also push a lot of, he projected. He was like, oh, Pistol was so jealous that I was with his mom. No, he wasn't.
Oh, no, he's a shit.
He was an 8-year-old.
He's a piece of shit.
He doesn't even know, like, he doesn't get that. You know, he just wanted his mom. That's it. It says that Rob locked Pistol out the day after his mother went missing. What kind of a fucking douche-ass person of a man changes the locks? And this is why I think Rob did it. This is one of the main reasons. If he honestly thought that Patrice was just missing and she might come home, why would he change the locks a day later? He already knew she was dead. He already knew because he changed the fucking locks.
Okay, fair argument. But I know if I was going to kill my wife, I would definitely not lock out my stepson because that really makes you seem a little guilty, doesn't it?
I mean, I don't think he gives a fuck. He also lies about having insurance on Patrice. If you watched this episode, he says he doesn't have any insurance on Patrice. But, like I said, I went to a YouTube channel by the name of Plunder. Go check her out. She's got a lot of really good true crime videos. But she pops up on the screen this Facebook post by somebody with the last name Endress. And she says that it's probably somebody that's either married into the family or a relative of Rob's, right? So let's read this post. Any crime guru mamas on here? Episode 2, 13 minutes, is about my husband's former stepmother's murder. So her husband must have been one of Rob's children. His dad, Rob, is all over the episode. My husband and his dad have not talked since the funeral. His dad is an ex-special forces, extremely smart and manipulative, a narcissist, and was very possessive of his mom as well, and lied a couple of times on the episode. I would love to discuss theories. Do you remember where Rob says he meets Patrice?
Sure.
Where? If you remember, tell me where.
I don't remember.
He says he meets her in the hair salon. But this Facebook post says, Rob did not meet Patrice in a hair salon. He was bald. Which we can see in the video. He didn't need to go in there for a haircut. He met her at a strip club. Patrice was a stripper. Which makes sense because she was a single mom at the time. And unfortunately, strippers make a lot of money, you know? He did have life insurance on Patrice, and none of the family got any of it. Rob kept it all. He's basically a trained liar, which would make sense if he really is ex-special forces. He changed the locks the day after she went missing, and Patrice's ex, Chris Pistol's father, got out of prison that year, and they were best friends and talked daily. Rob was a jealous man. And at the end, he says, now I have her, and that's a good thing.
Okay.
So if all of that shit is true, what does that say to you about Rob?
But where's the... You were telling me earlier that eyewitness reports don't mean shit.
Well, witness reports...
You are telling me that you're basing your entire theory on a Facebook post that... Is it verified that this person's related? Are any of those things absolutely true?
I haven't said that they're absolutely true. But if they are true, it gives a lot of insight into the way that things probably
They had
actually
other people
went down.
that they interviewed, and if he did not meet her at the hair salon, and mind you, yes, he's bald on the video. Guess what? Number one, bald guys still go get haircuts unless they're completely bald. And two, this was when he was younger, so yes, he might have had hair at the time.
I mean, you can look at him in the photos at their wedding, and he doesn't have that much hair. Not enough hair.
But he has hair on the sides, doesn't he?
I don't think that somebody... My dad has hair on the sides, and my
gets
dad's
a haircut
bald. My dad never gets a haircut.
Okay, my dad... He just said he was Special Forces or whatever. He was in the military.
Ex-Special Forces, yes.
My dad was in the Army. My dad is bald. But he still has hair on the sides, and he still gets his hair cut quite frequently. He does not let his side hair get far out. So telling me that he doesn't get a haircut, that's bullshit.
I don't think he got a haircut.
Because he had the mushroom, or he had the
mushroom.
He was balding in the wedding photos, but he had hair on the sides, if I'm not mistaken.
Very little, but yes.
Well, guess what? Guess how you have very little? You get a fucking haircut.
Like I said, I don't know for sure that all of this is true. I don't necessarily believe that she was a stripper.
Her friends,
but it would make sense.
Her friends didn't mention the stripper thing.
Because it doesn't hold.
All of those people want to say that he was the person that had something to do with her disappearance and her death.
And actually, all of those people that are in the episode did as well.
I know, and I'm saying those people, all they would have had if they knew that she was a stripper and that they met with stripping, they would call him out on that lie.
They don't know that he lied. Do you think that they interview these people right together? I've heard so many people...
I know my interviewer, okay,
let me put it to you